Hello on the Rockers. It's a Who Dunnit tonight with members of the cast of the touring production of Clue on stage, Broadway's Joanna Glushak, Treacy Egan, Tari Kelly, and Jonathan Spivey, and me, your sassy host with the sassy most. Raise a glass, let the drinks begin. It's On the Rocks.
On the rocks, baby.
Yes.
Thank you for being
Boulevard.
Life is a banquet, and most poor suckers are starving to death.
I'd like to propose a toast.
This is On the Rocks with Alexander, where I drink with your favorite celebrities as we talk about fashion, entertainment, pop culture, reality TV, and, well, that's about it. So pop a cork, lean back, and raise a glass to On the Rocks.
fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Buttons and bows and pantyhose, On the Rocks podcast, a place where we're too glam to give a damn. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at On the Rocks on Air, and on Facebook, On the Rocks Radio Show. Send me an email, book me for a wedding, funeral, pride, quinceañera. I don't care, I'll be there. Info at ontherocksradioshow.com. Send us your comments, your guest requests, and guest questions. The show's presented by Straw Hat Media. You can watch now our over 386 episodes for free at ontherocksradioshow.com. You can watch us on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV on the Outlet.tv app, Facebook Watch, streaming with pride on SVTV and Channel 31 on the East Coast. Hello, East Coast. We proudly tape at UBN Go Studios, your one-stop place for podcasting. All right, let's get this show on the road. I saw Clue on stage for the final performance at Orange County, and now they are in LA. I cannot tell you what a great time I had. Let's welcome to the show Joanna Glushak, an award-winning actress who has starred on Broadway in Sunday in the Park with George, Les Miserables, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, Warpaint, Hairspray, You're in Town, Rags, Conversations with My Father, Welcome to the Club, After the Night, and the music and the sweet smell of success. With New York City Opera, she was seen in Little Night Music and The Most Happy Fellow. During her extensive career, she has worked with some of the most amazing directors in America and British theater. On screen, she's reoccurred as Mrs. O'Toole on the Emmy Award-winning Amazon series The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and was also seen in Younger and Madam Secretary, by the way. She's currently touring the nation as one of our favorite characters, Mrs. Peacock in Clue. Also joining us, Treacy Egan, an award-winning actor, host, singer, director, and writer. On Broadway, he's appeared in My Fair Lady at the Lincoln Center Theater. He's created roles in Sister Act, Disney's The Little Mermaid. He's one of the first actors to play all three major roles in The Producers, by the way. He was an original cast member of Jekyll and Hyde and Roundabout's Bye Bye Birdie. He has toured U.S. and Europe in productions of Kiss Me, Kate, and Cats, and he's currently playing Colonel Mustard. And Colonel Mustard is like you've never seen him before, by the way. Please welcome Joanna and John.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, we're going to get into your careers, but we're going to start with Clue because the show is just sweeping the nation, and it's so fun for fans of the movie, for people that have never seen the movie, for people that have never played the game. It is, it's an audience bringer together. And how much do we need that in today's social and political time? We need a show where everybody can just lean back and relax. I want to know from both of you, what was your relationship to Clue prior to doing the show?
Mine was I just played the game with my cousins when I was a kid. I had not seen the movie before we started rehearsal, so...
You had never seen the movie?
No, I saw the movie after we our run in Cleveland, where we actually premiered Clue in Cleveland.
Wow, and we know that Clue has become this iconic movie history. John, where were you?
I worked in a video movie center. It came out on video. It was always going out. I never got it.
He's had many jobs.
Yes, I have.
And Joanna, your relationship to Clue?
None. I did not play the game. I watched the movie before my audition because, of course, I didn't know who the hell Mrs. Peacock was. Or
That's insane to me.
Yeah, I've been busy. And I don't love game. Like, I'll start a game and then I'm like, oh, I gotta go.
I do have to tell you, this is the consensus. We love Clue as the movie. The game, it takes a long time. It's like Monopoly. It's like, do we really want to sit down for all of this time?
Yeah, so that was my first intro, is right the day before I auditioned for this.
Well, and we're going to talk about how you created your character because I want to know if that was a benefit or was a detraction. But this is truly an ensemble piece. Both of you have come from starring roles in Broadway productions. Was it kind of hard to step into an ensemble piece obviously every part is integral. Everybody has a spotlight. Every part is done so well, but it is an ensemble, and you have to share the stage for the whole show. Is that kind of, difficult? And I'm talking to two veterans of Broadway who have had starring roles.
No. Well, you want to go, John?
No, I was just going to say, so we can tell you two different versions. So I did the version in Cleveland that it was premiered in. And so when we were putting it together, that's not the version this is the version that toured, but it wasn't with this cast.
Right.
So putting it together, yes, it was difficult, and because it's so rapid fire and everything, but it's so fun to interact with other actors. Now, Joanna has another story because Joanna is working with actors who have done the show before, and she had to come in as the newbie. So Joanna, you're on.
Oh my God. It was terrifying because the show is so fast.
So
It's
fast.
80 minutes. And I had to learn this show in 2 weeks.
my
and
God.
the blocking itself is like a whole other show. So I was fortunately, John
Yes.
said, don't worry, you're okay. And we've all done it before. He kept reminding me of that. Thank God, because it took such a weight off of me. And I numbered everything in my living room. I did my whole living room like the set. And every night I taped everyone's lines and I went over it and over it every night. Then got up in the morning and did the rehearsal. There was no other way I could learn it this fast. And no, I love working with other actors in an ensemble like this. And it's to me, it's not really an ensemble. It is, but we're all such individuals, and we've all done leading roles, and we're all like, it's just great fun to be reacting off of someone and watching what they do night after night and laughing and having Treacy Egan say my lines when Mrs. Peacock has oncoming dementia and things like that. So.
And I have to tell you, it's such a delight. And I have to tell you, another character on the show is that set. That set, you could hear the gasp in the audience when the doors come out and the rooms like pivot. There's a gasp. Like, people, you fulfill everybody's Clue fantasies.
Well, I think it's so iconic. The rooms are so iconic. They're part of the game.
100%.
So you have to have the weapons, you have to have the rooms, and you have to have the people. Otherwise, it's not the Clue that you grew up with or everybody kind of knows. I mean, especially the game.
Yes. Yeah. Touring is a different beast than having a residency on Broadway. And I know, you've toured, but what are some of the challenges you face as an actor? We have a lot of actors that watch the show. In a touring production, in a fast-paced show like this, and you guys are touring the nation, what are some of the challenges you face as an actor that you've worked through for Clue?
I don't know, Joanna. I would say as an actor, I don't find it that challenging, because the nice part is once we get to the theater, everything's kind of the same. We have our stage managers, we have our crew, we have our set, we have our costumes. All of that is the same. So that's almost like the safe place. The hard part is packing up and moving to another city and getting on airplanes and buses and where's the food and where's the, all of that kind of stuff. So it's adjusting to a new city, which I think is more of a human problem than an actor problem, but.
Well, but as actors, we also, in this particular show, it's very physical and easy to get injured. And so we really have to take care of our bodies. And they do give us physical therapy twice a week in every city. But it's a lot of self-care, really, because it is so physical. It's as physical as any musical I've ever done. So that I will say. And that's true for touring. You're carrying suitcases, you're dragging I have my dog with me.
Do you really?
A lot of us do. Yeah, John has his dog with him, and so does Tari, and our stage manager on occasion. It's a lot to drag around physically every week. Fortunately, we're here in LA for 4 weeks, so come see us. But anyway, and we can relax. Our bodies can relax. But that's the tough part of touring, I think. And like John said, it's safe places on stage.
Well, and I've heard from
our day off is the travel day, so we don't really get.
You don't really get a day off.
Yeah, but we'll get them off here, which is nice.
And I've heard from people that tour, even though you're part of a vibrant ensemble, even though you're in front of audiences most nights out of your week, it can also be a little lonely and isolating because you are traveling and you're not able to really connect, even though you're in LA for 4 weeks, but you're working the whole time. You don't really get to connect. And by the time you connect, then you have to move on to the next city. And so I've heard that it can be a little lonely and a little isolating.
It can be.
That's why I have my dog.
That makes perfect sense, though,
But this cast is small, A. B, everyone is so lovely and funny. And we all make, we have a WhatsApp, we have a text chain, and people are constantly saying, we're going to dinner here, who wants to go, let's go, and who wants to go to see this event or see this beautiful park. So it's a very close, I would say, cast. We're very good to each other, which is a great thing, and it's not always that way.
It is not always that way. I've been on ensemble cast, and if you don't get along with a few people, you're stuck with them. But I'm telling you, anytime you want to drunk text me or come to WeHo, you just let me know.
In my Ambien text that I wake up and...
Girl, I send worse texts without Ambien. But this kind of feeds into the next kind of actor point of view is how do you keep up your mental and physical health while on the road? And I'm so glad to hear that you have a physical therapist. And that's something new. That's something new that we're talking about in the last few years is actors' health in terms of mental and physical. So knowing that they employ a physical therapist is huge. But how do you keep up your mental health?
Drugs. No.
My God. Joanna, I just want to hang out with you like all night long.
I'm not so sure you do.
She's my girl.
John, you want to answer?
By the way, I loved that your intro to your show was basically all the roles Joanna could play.
Oh, right. Isn't that?
It could. I did play. What do you say?
I mean,
well, I'm
I didn't want to be presumptuous. I figured you played most of them, but still.
100%.
I played all of them.
But like Mrs. Maisel, yeah, like 100%. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. How do we keep our mental health? I think, we're lucky because we do have our dogs on the road.
Yeah.
We just try to do things. You try to be good to ourselves because we have a lot of time. Sometimes we have a lot of time during the day, to fill. So we just have to go do things that kind of make us happy, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, lunch at the Abbey with me is one of those things that's going to make you happy.
I love that.
I would love that. The movie Clue has become such a classic, and it's so interesting to hear that your relationship with it wasn't like huge before getting into the show. But the audience feels like we know these characters. We know their lines. We know their inflections. We know their personality. And I have to say, the ensemble does such a good job of paying homage to the textures of the film, but making the characters your own. So I want to know from each of you, what was your creative process in building this character? And Joanna, I know that you saw the movie right before, getting involved, and John, you didn't. But where did you start, and what was your creative process with these colorful characters?
Well, it's funny for me. It was definitely that my influence was the game, and they came with cards, and the cards had a rendering of what the character looked like. In the game I played, Colonel Mustard had a pith helmet on, and he looked like he was coming from the safari and all of that.
Yep.
And I actually thought there's an actor in New York. Joanna knows who it is, but I haven't said the name. Who's very much like this. He kind of talks like this a lot, and I thought, well, it's probably how Colonel Mustard sounds. Definitely, he's at it like with absolute authority, and he's all the time. And I thought that's what
Joanna knows who you're talking about. I can tell.
Yeah, but that's so funny anyway.
There's probably more than one. I thought, that's I'm going to start there and see how that goes. And it seemed to be what worked for our director, Casey Hushin. And, she gave me adjustments on that. And I guess I cracked the code, and that's how I got in. And that was my influence on who Colonel Mustard was.
And John, I know you got involved early on in this whole touring production, in previous productions. We see Colonel Mustard more than we see him in the film. We see this character who's kind of I don't want to say buffoon, but a little bit, but the character's very expanded. Were you part of that process in expanding this character?
No, I was not. It's our writer Sandy. She wrote the play, and basically, while we were working on the play, lines came and went, but there was no expansion on my part. I pretty much just said what I was told to say and tried to do my best with it. So
hilarious, and it's such a joy to see that character fully enjoyed.
Well, the joke is I always say to Casey, I go, Casey, is he kind of dim or is he hard of hearing? She's like, okay.
Yeah. Well, with that whole scene with the glass, and then, oh my God.
That was mine.
Oh, was that really yours?
Rehearsal, and they went with it, so I don't.
Funny. Okay. So funny. And Joanna, Mrs. Peacock, from the movie, like, we know this character, we know the textures. The minute you came on stage, we knew that you were making her your own. And so where did you kind of start? Because Mrs. Peacock, she's got her own secrets, and, she's not a drinker, but she loves to drink.
She is a drinker, yeah. But you don't know it.
My friend is like, where can we get that purse with the drink in it?
I will sell it to you after the show.
The bane of her existence.
A lot of money, yeah. I watched the movie. I mean, she says, I am the wife of a great senator. And I just saw her like a kind of 1940s leftover film act, kind of coming from that way of speaking, left over from then, and talking like that, not British, but that,
that
Catholic,
New England drop. Yep.
That 1940s speak in the movies. So I kind of, took her back to that, and that falsely high class kind of thing, which goes away when she says, I need a drink. But yeah, that's how I envisioned her, because she thinks of herself as this high class senator's wife, and she's kind of a alcoholic. Kind of, she is.
Maybe that's why I want to hang out with her so badly.
And also that dress that they have me in, I didn't, that's a different outfit. And I thought, well, I have to create somebody who would wear this dress.
And those shoes. It's so eccentric. Those shoes. I was like, girl, I want those shoes.
These are the third pair of shoes I've had, because they were so I had to get uncomfortable shoes. And at first I was like, I'm not wearing those. They're ugly. And then I was like, yeah, I like them.
I think it just speaks to her character, though. She wants a place somewhere, and so her place is her fashion and her eccentric kind of energy. That's how she gets her attention, because the attention's on her husband. Both of you are veterans in the biz with a long list of credits, big credits. The rest of the cast has such a diverse mix of resume credits. Being the vets of the cast, I want to say, what do you think you've been able to share or teach with the rest of the cast, and what have you learned from the other cast members?
I'm always chastising the boys for whistling backstage.
Whistling? That's bad luck.
It's a no. It's a no. Did you not know that?
Yeah, it's a huge bad luck.
Yeah, bad luck.
I'm always like, stop. No.
I have to tell them that. What else, John? Anything?
I don't know.
Well, I'm learning a lot from the youngins about a lot of things, and I just basically keep my mouth shut and try to go with the flow. And touring is different now than it used to be. It used to be that you could make $1 million on tour and buy a house, and now it's a lot less than that, and due to the pandemic and all sorts of things. So you have to just really have a lot of patience. And it's funny because the young ones are like, oh my God, we're staying in this hotel and the rooms are 2 by 2. You can't fit anything in it, but I love it. And I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. Where's in this room? I can't even fit myself in here.
You're like, been there, done that.
Yeah, never been there. This is new and never want to do it again. But so, they're excited and we have to get on board with their excitement if we get irritated. I do. I get on board with their excitement if I feel irritated as someone who's done this a lot, and thinks things should be different. So I'm learning a lot from them.
But that's true. I mean, some of us have toured in the past years, back in the day when tours were a little bit more, there were more union tours than there were non-union tours. And now there seems to be a lot more non-union tours going out into theaters and being put into subscriptions with, the big shows that people want to see, like Hamilton and Wicked. And unfortunately, it's nice for the younger actors who are in the non-union to basically cut their teeth and tour and make some money. But because they have no union backing them, they have nobody protecting them and nobody investing in their future. And that's the thing that kind of hurts the fact that we see so much non-union stuff going out, because it's cheaper. You don't have to pay the union actors and you don't have to pay the benefits. They just basically send them out and,
And they do a lot of, they put the set up half the time, they take the set, they do a lot of stuff.
Right. And they're being sold as in subscriptions with big shows. Yeah. So you don't know which not that the non-union actors are not good. They're probably very good. They're just not being protected like union actors are.
All right, let's talk a little career. Joanna, Sunday in the Park with George is one of my absolute favorite shows. In my estimation, it's so underrated and underappreciated. You had the amazing experience of being part of the original production. Can you tell me what it was like working on that show with Sondheim with this amazing cast and then taking over the role as Dot?
Well, I didn't actually take over. I was Bernadette's understudy or standby. And at that time, there was only one standby on a show. And it was one of the most phenomenal experiences I have to say that I've had working with Mandy Patinkin when I went on the first time. He was the most generous actor. He never spoke backstage. We went over the songs once each, and he said, "Okay, that's good." And there we were, boom. And he was marvelous. And I went on for her a lot. It was. And she was so generous too. Whatever you need. Yeah. And so it was a great experience. The cast was fantastic, and working with Sondheim was, I'll never forget. He really went. He said, the musicality is coming from really what you're saying, and blah blah blah. And it was a real learning experience. I was really young, and it was my first Broadway show, so it was like, what just happened, But and Lapine, it was pretty awesome. That really, I learned a lot. I learned a lot watching, and I learned a lot doing. And
like to your point, to be so young and to have that experience, to be able to learn from this whole ensemble and director, and I mean that's a once in a lifetime gift. But it's an album that I listen to over and over and over. Joanna, you were in the roundabout and tour of the reboot of 1776. All women, trans, non-binary actors. And so I want to pose this question to both of you. There's this whole talk about being too woke. We know that this is a hot topic. Even the word sets people off. What do both of you say to comments about theater becoming too woke in terms of casting and diversity?
John?
I think, look, visibility is always good, right? So we want communities to see themselves in productions that we do. I think sometimes it's unbelievably helpful for pieces that are able to sort of transform themselves into being super diverse and the piece works. I'm also a traditionalist, though. I think if you're doing a piece that's written a certain way, I mean, you're certainly not going to cast certain shows with diverse characters because that's historically that's not how they are. So for like you to take a 1776 and decide to blow up the whole thing, I think that's fascinating. I think if they did it piecemeal, then I think it's problematic because I think it takes you out of the piece. I think what you're doing is you're concentrating on the wrong thing. You're concentrating on actors who maybe aren't in that world, But with, like I said, with like a 1776 where you sort of blow up the whole thing, then everybody kind of goes with it. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think Hamilton kind of set the stage for that because it made us rethink everything from start to finish.
Yeah, I think it's very important that we have this happen now. But I also, it's hard, it's a complicated issue because you don't want them to just check the boxes. You 100%. Want them to be the best people, and also if we get too separated, then it's like you don't want it to become, well, you can't do this because you're not Jewish, or you can't do this because you're not this or that, and or you're not Ashkenazi, but you're Sephardic Jew. Then it's like, whoa, and it's getting a little bit detailed. I have a friend who's his Latin, and she's not getting roles because she's not dark enough. And it's like, wait a minute, what? So it'll even itself out. It always starts out like this, and then it'll just. I believe it will come back to some sort of. I don't know, evenness, but
it'll be more accepted, I think. Exactly. And I think theater's always been the front runner of basically pushing the boxes, always.
100%. And it's always reflected what's happening socially.
Right. Whereas, television and film has to kind of catch up.
Yeah, 100%. John, when you look at your resume, when you look at the characters that you've created on Broadway, which how many actors get to say, oh, I created this role? Right. Then you look back at your opening night Broadway debut in Jekyll and Hyde. What goes through your mind in reflecting on this vibrant career that you've had?
Well, I think I'm very lucky to have all the opportunities I've had. And I'm definitely thankful to the many people who've allowed me to be where I've been in those positions. I'll tell you, I remember my first night in Jekyll and Hyde when we had our opening night, being nervous and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm on Broadway. And I'll think, no, just pretend you're at the Chappaqua Drama Group where you were doing Evita in 1985. Do you know what I mean? Just take the pressure of Broadway off and it's just another piece of theater. You know what I mean? Who cares who's in the audience? So no, I'm really, really grateful for all the opportunities I've had, I have to say.
And John, you're a member of the queer community. We know Colonel Mustard loves the ladies. But what kind of queer texture or sensibility have you been able to infuse on the character into the production?
Well, there is one moment that we worked on a little bit, and it's a moment where he misunderstands what Mr. Green is saying, and it was a moment of where, I guess I can say the moment where Mr. Green says, who is a homosexual? I am Mr. Green, who is a homosexual.
Yes.
And
I laughed so hard.
he responds with not me, because he misunderstands the context.
Yeah.
And when we were kind of working on that, we thought, what are we going for in this moment? Because I think there were some moments in the movie that they wanted to tap down the sort of laughing at the gay moment as opposed to sort of going with something else. And I think we sort of discussed the fact that, well, he just misheard it. And he just answers just a matter of factly. And don't try to go for anything else. Don't try to go for an opinion. So he's like, well, not me, or, whatever. It's just more of like, well, no, I'm not. And that's it. And it seems to get a pretty good response.
I want to ask both of you, how are you most alike your character and how are you most different?
John, how are you?
I'm
loud. And funny.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. I'm loud and funny.
Okay. I can be naive at times. And
I don't believe that, Joanna. I don't believe that.
Don't. Take me somewhere and tell me something, and I'll go with you. I'll follow. I got into a lot of trouble that way, but I'm still here. I think I'm like I am kind of naive, and then I don't know. I like to.
Yeah, but your book is going to be something to read when you write it.
I've done a lot of crazy things. Let's put it that way. I've gotten into a lot of crazy situations. Seriously. And I'm lucky I got out. And I'm here to tell it. And I guess she's gotten herself into some crazy thing going to that mansion somewhere. You know what I mean? That's how I'm like her. I would have gone as well and then regretted it.
All right. From both of you, what is your favorite moment on stage? And for the audience, when you see the show, you literally better buckle in because it starts and it doesn't finish till it finishes.
Moment.
I mean, I always like the group scenes where we're in the study because the rapid fire dialogue. I just think it's exciting. I think what Joanna said in the beginning. It's so fun to work off other actors. That appeals to me so much more than standing on the stage by myself, spouting a monologue or singing a song. I love the tennis game that we play. It's more like a soccer game, though, right, Joanna?
Oh my God, yeah. And if you don't hit the ball,
because
he
the
picks the ball
bicycle comes off the chain, right? The moment the chain comes off the bicycle and we have to get back up.
I can't tell you what my favorite. I have so many favorite moments. My favorite moments are when the chain comes off the bicycle.
They are fun.
I can't even imagine.
John Treacy Egan has to say my line. Thank you. I am always
I love that
forever
Colonel
grateful.
Mustard, the quote-unquote buffoon, has to come in and save the day.
For some reason, he knows all my lines. Well, you've directed it.
I directed it twice.
That's
I've
right,
directed it
yeah.
twice, and I've been in it for a long time. So,
And Clue is one of the most produced shows around the nation. And now we get to see it in all of its professional discourse, and it's so wonderful. Clue is touring the nation, currently at the Amundsen in Los Angeles. Opening night is tonight, by the way. It runs through August 25th, so if you're in SoCal, head to centertheatergroup.org. It has been such a pleasure to speak to you both. Tell our audience where they can find and follow you.
thank you for having us, by the way.
Oh,
I'm
of course.
At official John Treacy Egan on Instagram.
Just look me up on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. I have the same name, Joanna Glushak, or joannaglushak.com if you want to look at my website.
Oh, and I would love to catch up with both of you because, Joanna, I also know that you were standby for Patti LuPone as well. It's like two divas in the world, and you're just the standby? I have some Patti stories, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do? Oh, I got
Joanna, we're gonna, and John, you are welcome. We're gonna have lunch at the Abbey in West Hollywood. You may or may not make it to call time. We'll do it on your day off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
It has been such a pleasure to chat with you. And coming up, we have two more cast members. But let's take a sneak peek of Clue.
Let the game begin.
A candlestick? What's this for?
A wrench.
A lead pipe? A dagger?
A revolver.
Ah! A snake! Oh no, it's a rope.
It's all part of the game. To make a long story short,
We've had a vibrant day. We just chatted with John and Joanna. Let me introduce you to the show officially. Tari Kelly has traveled the country and has stopped the show nightly as the Countess Lily in the first national tour of Anastasia. She has been in 6 Broadway shows: Groundhog Day, Something Rotten, Anything Goes, The Boy from Oz, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Showboat. And on national tours, she's played iconic leads in Little Shop of Horrors, Cabaret, and Showboat. She's currently playing the lovely Mrs. White in Clue. Also joining us today, Jonathan Spivey, classically trained American actor based in New York City. He can currently be seen across the country, originating the role of Professor Plum in Clue, of course. His television appearances include The Gilded Age, East New York, The Blacklist, and Blue Bloods. And on Broadway, he's appeared in the Tony-nominated revival of The Front Page opposite Nathan Lane and John Goodman, as well as the Tony Award-winning Act One opposite Tony Shalhoub, which was televised for PBS. Please welcome Jonathan and Tari. So I have to tell you, I saw Clue in your closing night in Orange County. So I was there front and center, and I had such an amazing time. I say Clue is the show that's bringing audiences together. Whether you're a theater fan, whether you've never seen theater, no matter what side you are politically, we just sit and we have a good time for the fastest 90 minutes I've ever had. And I've been on some bad dates that have lasted more than 90 minutes, and this went super, super fast. I want to know, what, both of you, what's your relationship to Clue prior to doing the show?
Prior to doing this one, I'd actually done it regionally last summer
Right.
at State St. Louis. And it won all these awards in St. Louis. It was a huge hit there for that theater they don't do plays. And in fact, they didn't really want to do a play, but the new artistic director said, let's do Clue. And it became their biggest hit of all time. So that's my relationship with it. And I, of course, grew up watching the movie. I was talking to Joanna and John, and they had never seen the movie, really. Joanna watched it like the day before she auditioned.
Yeah, I'm like them. I did not grow up with the board game. I did not. I was aware of the movie. I think anybody who knows anything about pop culture, you know something about the movie, or you're living under a rock.
100%.
I did not grow up kind of watching the movie or playing the game. I have not done Clue before. There's just a small handful of us who are new to this universe, so this tour has really been my big introduction to the characters and to the story.
Both of you have had leading roles on stage. This is truly an ensemble piece. You know, from start to finish, everybody gets their spotlight, everybody gets their turn. But is it a little, as an actor, we have a lot of actors that watch the show, is it a little difficult to kind of, and both of you were highlighted so well, but is it difficult to be like, okay, now I'm part of this whole thing, I'm not the lead. There's no real lead in the show. Is that a little difficult from an actor standpoint?
I wouldn't call it difficult. I'd say your assignment when you're doing a play like this versus King Lear or Death of a Salesman is much more playing a team sport. And in some ways, I as a performer like the variety of getting to play a lead and then not having to play a lead. That involves a lot of pressure sometimes. It involves a lot of heavy lifting. I think about Mark, who's playing Wadsworth in our cast, who was burning, I don't know how many calories during every performance. So I still look at that as a great gift. Sometimes I don't necessarily want to have to play the lead in every show. And on top of that, I think getting to play in this, I'm going to steal Mark's phrase here, play in the sandbox with this group of incredibly funny people like Tari, and getting to pass the baton to each other is one of the reasons why I think most of us got into theater in the first place. None of us want to be doing a one-person show. We want to be up there with other people, enjoying each other. And
you've done a one-person show, too. You've done your own show.
I have, yeah. I have a one-person show about Lorenz Hart, who was Richard Rodgers' collaborator before Rodgers went and wrote with Hammerstein. And I actually just read a press release, I think a month ago, that, of course, that grand idea has been stolen into a movie that I think is being shot later this year, which I have no affiliation with, but I'm very happy it's a story that's being told. He was a really gifted lyricist.
And Tari, what's it like being part of this ensemble? I mean, you played Audrey. I mean, you've played Sally Bowles.
Right. The pressure's off a little bit. I want to say, like, you don't have to worry so much about, I've got to, like, deliver every night. This whole thing, it's on my shoulders. So you are part of a whole, like, it's almost like an amoeba going, like, you're all part of the same thing. Everybody has their moment. Everybody, you still have to be in it, but it's not like the weight of the world on your shoulders, right? So it's a little more fun. Like, say I played Judy Garland in Under the Rainbow. That's a show we should do together, Jonathan.
Yes, I'm here for it.
Let's do it.
That's a roller coaster of a show.
Oh my gosh. And I loved it. And it's so hard, but it is so taxing. And this is taxing in a different way, but it's not quite the commitment that is, right? And it's 90 minutes and you're done and you're all carrying the weight together. And there's something I love about that. And there's something that I have missed about that in playing those big roles. You play those big roles and you really do feel like you are showing everything you can do and you are putting it all out there. And there's something about doing an ensemble show that kind of brings you back to why you became an actor.
I love that.
You love the community of it all. And that's something that I was missing for a long time. So yeah, that's what I love about it. Everybody picks up you throw the ball, you don't let the ball drop. And there's a different kind of skill set to that. And I just love that. I love that.
That's funny. Joanna said the same thing. It's a ball that's just being passed for the whole time. Lately we've been able to talk about mental and physical health with actors. And, there's no stigma now talking about mental health, which there used to be. Touring a show is so different than having a Broadway residency where you go back to your house and you're with your friends and you're living your life and you go to the theater at night. But you are picking up and going from city to city. Can you talk about how you maintain your mental and physical health while on the road in this fast-paced show?
Gosh, that's a really good question. It is taxing, and I thank you for asking that, by the way. I've done so much theater in New York. I've done so much regional theater where you're in one town for 2 months. You really get to know the town. You get to know kind of the culture of where you are. This, as most tours, we'll be in Los Angeles here for 4 weeks, but by and large, most tours that you're seeing now are in one city per week, and you're traveling on Monday. On your day off, you're packing your suitcases again, you're going to the airport, you're getting to that new city, and it is taxing. It's tough. So I think you have to keep those lifelines open to the people that you know, to your loved ones at home, your friends at home. You have to talk to them regularly because as great as it is being part of a group that's traveling around, you get very close very fast, by the way. And you get to know each other on tour in a way that you never do when you are just, like you said, doing a show and then going home, which is one thing that I've kind of really loved about it. You're seeing each other on the red eye at the airport. You are very often living in the same building as your coworkers, which, as you said, is something that you're not really doing when you're living at home. So at least for our company, I can say that has brought us closer together. Of course, everyone is different. It's a really diverse ensemble of age and experience and life experiences. But I've really come to appreciate that those difficulties of being on the road that you might not get living at home and working at home actually force you to get closer with the people that you're working with.
You trauma bond. That's what we call it. Like we had a bad travel day and we all had it together, right? So we all talk. We are all there for each other. Like 2 weeks ago, or was it 1 week ago? I don't remember where it was, but it was a difficult travel. It was after that huge thing happened with the
IT mess up. Yeah.
And we got to the airport and it was just a sea of people. And it was just like, I personally had a little bit of a breakdown, and I don't usually do that, but I was traveling with this little nugget, and this is what keeps me sane.
Oh, yes. So cute. And Jonah was saying that she has her dog too. Oh, so cute. Oh my God, look how adorable.
That helps, with the trauma, but also of traveling, but it also adds to it sometimes. So, but other people were there for me. They helped me. They gave me a hug. I actually said, I just need a hug, and they gave me a hug.
Terry, I can see you at the airline desk saying, flames on the side of my head.
Yeah, flames. And you do get close to people pretty quickly. And I knew Mark before this because we had done the show together last summer. And so I'm really, really close with him. But I've gotten to know other people too, but I came into this knowing somebody. So that gave me a sense of, well, at least I know, 1 or 2 people on the tour going into it. So that I was like, oh, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. But now that I've gotten to know everybody, it's just like everybody's got my back, and I know that. I just have to ask.
I absolutely love that. The characters in the show, the audience feels like we know these characters. You know, most of us have seen the movie over and over and over again. What was your creative process in paying homage to what the audience expects to see, but also making it your own? And iconic actors have played your part in the film.
Yeah, I like I said, I didn't grow up watching the film, and when I sort of found out I was doing this, auditioning and the callback process and getting the job, I kind of avoided it. And every actor is different. Some actors, if you know you're going to be doing kind of replicating a role, if you even want to call it that, really want to do a deep dive into that source material so they have kind of every possibility available to them. I'm not one of those actors. I'd rather approach it in the same way that I approach a new play or even Shakespeare for that matter. I'd rather approach it from what it says on the page. And that said, of course, you've got to be aware that, you know, in my case, Christopher Lloyd originated this part, right? So I guess what I'd say for me is that I tried not to watch too much of the movie leading up into rehearsals because I didn't want to feel like I was doing an impression. And by the way, none of us in the stage production are really doing impressions.
100%. It's such a fresh take. But like I said, it still pays homage. We get what we want from these characters.
Yeah, I think for me, you just have to kind of identify what is the big character trait of this character. This is a farce, right? So these are people who all are incredibly flawed in very funny ways. So you have to
Speak for yourself.
What's that?
Speak for yourself. I'm kidding.
She'll kill you.
Sometimes very flawed. You know, like what makes him tick, and what is he maybe unaware of about himself? So, in my case, I approached him as a man who is a stuffed shirt academic who thinks he's the smartest person alive, in love with the sound of his own voice, and went at it from that angle, and then I think probably subconsciously drew on some college professors or bosses that I grew up with and kind of took that tack.
For me, I watched the movie again, and I remembered always loving Madeline Kahn. But in seeing her performance, I realized it wasn't a very theatrical performance. It's very small.
That's why that flames, because it's very intimate, 100%. And you had that duty. Everybody's waiting for that line. The whole show, everybody's waiting for that line. That has to be a lot of pressure.
I can feel. Yeah, it is a lot of pressure, and the pressure also is the fact that she improv'd that. Do you know that?
100%. Of course, girl. I'm a huge Clue fan. I know that.
That's a huge thing, and it's like you can tell it's a very small. And I watched it because I wanted to use that as a jumping off point, because my Mrs. White is very different from hers.
Yes.
She's a lot smaller and a lot more like everything is delicate. And I was like, okay, how can I make this more theatrical? And again, going to the text like Jonathan does, I play her like almost more like a Norma Desmond.
100%. She's a diva.
She's in her own world. She's in her own story. You know, like how do I also pay homage to what Madeline Kahn did, which is I picked up on her eyes are always darting and watching everybody as who's watching me, who's looking at me. Yeah. There was like the, you know, not trusting of what's happening that I picked up from her. That really helped me figure out who my Mrs. White was. But the flames thing, I do steal a little bit of her inflection, but I obviously...
Oh, you make it your own, girl. So audience was in tears because, like we said, we waited and you gave it a fresh approach, and we loved it. But you've had to do this. You played Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors. You played Sally Bowles. These are characters that we know, and you've had to make them your own.
Yes, and that's part of the fun. I mean, for me anyway, it's like I don't want to do an exact replica, but I also don't want to necessarily completely divert myself away just to divert myself away from what people do previously. I mean, Ellen Greene is iconic. Yeah. So what can I take from her performance? She played it very childlike. She didn't play it stupid. So that's where I've used as a jumping off point for Audrey. You know, I'm going to make her my own version of what Ellen Greene started with. Sally Bowles is a little easier because you have Liza Minnelli, but they changed it so much for the movie. She's British in the stage show. So, you can kind of still use her flamboyant love of life that, Liza had and make it your own. I personally love watching what people do previously because it kind of ignites my my take. I don't feel like it tamps it down at all. But that's me.
I think what wins for the Clue ensemble is that it comes from a place of sincerity. Nobody's trying to do something outlandish just to be different for the sake of being different. It comes from being an actor. And Jonathan, you have this classical training. When I say classical training, I mean you have been entrenched in classical training, the Globe Theater, everything. What kind of, how does that help you in a modern piece or like a farce like Clue or some of the modern stuff that you've done?
Yeah, I went to grad school at the Old Globe in San Diego, not too far from here. The bulk of that training was Shakespeare. And one of the big reasons why I wanted to go was because Shakespeare is some of the most difficult language you can work on. And my logic was, if I can perform this language well and get the audience to understand it, then I ought to be able to deliver Neil Simon pretty well, or Tennessee Williams pretty well, or Memphis the Musical pretty well, or Clue, this farce pretty well. So I think one of the big parallels between that training and what we're doing here is this is a very language-based show.
The patter has got to be there.
Physical comedy, there's slapstick, but this is wordy. It is quick talking. There are very few breaths between lines. I think about the front page, and that was very similar to the front page too. That was a mile a minute, rapid fire, motor mouth, rapid fire dialogue. So of course that text training and that vocal and speech training, just like any kind of training you get, is going to inform any genre that you do later. I also think about all the musical theater performers we have in our cast. Terry, Mark, Joanna, John Treacy. Like, there is a huge parallel between the kind of training and expertise that genre requires and what our show requires. There's a real musicality to the language where if you don't have a sense of internal rhythm and tempo, you're probably not going to be able to do
100%
or farce in general.
Yeah, 100%. Jonathan, you've shared this stage with some biggies from TV. We're talking about Tony Shalhoub, John Goodman. We have I have. We're like, oh, somebody from screen wants to do stage. Isn't that cute? But these are great actors. What did you learn from them in doing sharing the stage with some of these big names?
I think the most expert folks who maybe are names that we recognize, not always, but often are some of the best collaborators and are most willing to have the best idea come from anybody in the room. That goes for directors too. Casey's been a living example of that as well. I think once folks reach a certain point of comfort in where they are in their career, they are more willing for the best idea to come from anyone. And I'd say that's a testimony to our ensemble too. Sometimes if a bit isn't working, you're not quite landing a joke in the way that you want it to, sometimes the best thing can be to ask your scene partner or ask, obviously, the director. So I think that's been a big lesson from working with some of those folks, is they don't always have to be the originator of the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because I actually have a couple of notes for you.
Ready.
With a rope.
I didn't know I had permission to give you these notes. Okay, I'll talk to you after.
I'm ready.
Okay. No, I agree with Jonathan. I've worked with some big names myself, but one of the things I learned working with Hugh Jackman was how being a leader, when you're the leader of a group, when you are the character, the main person, the reason that people are coming to see the show, however you want to say it, the lead, it's really important that you are a good leader. It's really important that you are positive and include everyone and are kind to everyone, and just it trickles down. And that's the one thing I will say about this cast. We're all kind to each other. We all love each other very much. But if I hadn't learned that from Hugh Jackman of all people, like seeing what a huge star he was and what he still treated us all the same, treated us all with respect and love, and that's one of the main things that I wanted to point out about working with a good star, is that they have a good work ethic and they respect everyone.
Yes, I agree with that. And I remember doing a production of Death of a Salesman where our lead was very much the same way. And I have to give a shout out to our Wadsworth, Mark Price.
So good.
Living example of what you just described, Terry. Yes. This is one of the kindest people that I have ever met, who sets the best offstage example for how to treat people, how to conduct yourself in a rehearsal. And it really does, Terry, to your point, it really does trickle down to everybody else in the cast, because we've all been in those shows where you don't have that example set, and it can affect the ensemble in a completely different way. But Mark is a wonderful example of what you just described.
Yes. And it's really important. It really is.
Well, and The Boy from Oz is a difficult show. It's Judy and Liza. We want it to be fun and vibrant, and it's kind of a sad story.
Very sad.
Yeah. I interviewed John Hill, who was part of. He was, I think, the understudy for Hugh, and he didn't have the best time on that show. But I think as actors, the more that we share these stories and the more that we share encouragement, I mean, I think it's great. And Terry, you've starred, but you've also had the opportunity to understudy a lot of roles as well. Yeah. I have understudy nightmares to this day, and I'm not even in theater anymore. Do you have any horror or funny understudy stories?
Oh, I do, actually. One of the shows you didn't mention that I just did was, I've actually been in 7 Broadway shows, 7.
Oh, there we go, girl.
Mr. Saturday
Mrs.
Night.
White just schooled me, girl.
That's right. Don't make the flames come out. I did Mr. Saturday Night with Billy Crystal.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
And I was the offstage cover for all 4 women. So the first time I ever went on, I had like 2 hours notice, and I was going in for Shoshana, who plays Shoshana Bean.
We love Shoshana. Yep.
And I went in to rehearse with Billy, and he was so nervous, and I realized, he's never had to do this before.
Wow.
He's never had to act with anybody he's never acted with in his entire life. He's only done movies, and he's only done his one-man Broadway show. So he was super nervous to go on with me, even though he had a hand in picking me to be the understudy for all these women. So he was really nervous, and that in turn started to make me a little nervous. And I remember thinking, you know what you're doing, just go out there and do it. And I did, but I had that undercurrent of he doesn't trust me. But then once I was doing the show and he saw that I did know what I was doing, and he kind of relaxed into acting with someone brand new in front of the entire audience, he really appreciated what I did, and he brought me out after and everything. But that was a tense time. He couldn't believe, he was like, I can't believe you just did that. We just did this show together. You played my daughter. But
and you're like, yes, I'm an actor.
Yes, this is what I do. He goes, you were just doing it. I'm like, that's what I do. But it was interesting because I've understudied a lot in my life. And that was the most nervous I've ever been, because I felt like my coworker didn't trust me.
And we were talking about, having a strong leader, and, all eyes were on him for that show.
Yeah.
Okay. In wrapping up, I don't know, how much are you like your character in Clue, and how much you are the most different?
I would like to believe that I'm pretty different. He's a professor of psychiatry who has had his medical license taken away. That's one of the things I love about the show. All 6 people who are trapped in this mansion have a little secret that you kind of learn through the show. He's had his medical license taken away because of somewhat untoward reasons. So then, of course, where does he find his new job but working for the U.S. government? I would like to think that in those ways I'm not similar, but I mean, I'm wordy. I sometimes love the sound of my own voice. I guess that's a similarity, but I'm not nearly harboring the type of dirty secret that the professor is harboring, that you have to come see Clue to find out. Sometimes I wear tweed. I guess that's a similarity. I don't know, Gary, are you like Mrs. White or
Wait,
not?
a gay man who wears tweed? Are you sure?
Guilty.
Am I like Mrs. White? Well, I am on my second husband, so you can
Third time's a charm, girl. You're getting to Elizabeth Taylor status.
I am. I'm on husband number 2. Am I like Mrs. White? No. I mean, maybe. Depends on my mood.
It's so funny seeing you out of costume and that whole thing. You are so different. It's so crazy to me.
That's been the biggest challenge for me is Mrs. White actually isn't anything like me. I have to stand so still and be very serious and barely move. That's not who I am. Obviously, you can tell that I'm very and silly. That's the hardest part for me. The hardest. Her dry humor, though, that's me. I do that a lot.
And
in
I
my
love
life.
that. Like, she can read people. Like, she should be a queer man because she can read somebody from across the room.
Yes, and that is me. So that's me, but I'm just not. I'm just a little more demonstrative with my animated. Maybe that's the animated.
Absolutely love it. Can you tell our audience where they can find and follow you?
Yes, Jonathan.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. My handle there is @jonathan.spivey. @jonathan.spivey. That's my Instagram handle. You can look at my website too. My website, you don't have to spell Jonathan for my website. It's jspivey.com. That's pretty much all you need to know.
And
Oh, go ahead.
No. And your Grindr profile name, Jonathan.
Oh, hey.
Hey now.
It's Professor Plum.
It changes every city just so people don't get too used to it. You want to keep it fresh.
It's like, look at my plums.
Yeah, Professor Plum. I just threw up a little in my mouth. Just a little bit.
And Tari, where can people find and follow you? And I know you have a beautiful website as well.
I have a website that has not been updated, but you can go there anyway.
Because it says 6 Broadway shows, not 7, and she'll set you right.
TARIKELLY.com. There are links to videos and things that I've done that are public on there. And then Broadway's Tari Kelly is my Instagram handle, thanks to one of the lovely young ladies in Anastasia who always called me Broadway's Tari Kelly.
Oh, I love that. It has been such a joy chatting with you both and seeing the show. I mean, it's such a fun show. And like I said, it's a breath of fresh air. Although some of those government jokes ring true today. And we're like, that hit a little too close to home. I'm going to let you both go because I know you have opening official night tonight in Los Angeles. Clue is touring the nation currently at the Amundsen Theater in Los Angeles, July 30th to August 25th. Head to centertheatergroup.org. You both go get ready and have a great night. And you guys are coming to West Hollywood for lunch, by the way.
Oh.
Yep. Talk to Joanna and John. We've arranged it. You might not make call time that day, but we'll have a good time.
We'll just have all the understudies on.
Yeah. I love it. It's been such a joy. Thank you both. And that's it, folks. It's always a grab bag of fun here at On the Rocks. Big thank you to our engineer, Tony Sweet, our social media clip editor, Alexis Mendez. Please like, share, subscribe so we can continue bringing the show to you for free. Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay sexy, and if you drink, stay tipsy. It's On the Rocks.
This has been another episode of On the Rocks. Tweet me and slide into my DMs on Twitter and Instagram @OnTheRocksOnAir. Find everything On the Rocks for free at OnTheRocksRadioShow.com. Subscribe, like, review, and share. Until next week, stay fabulous.